If you watched my last video about producing music on the 17-year-old MacBook, the Core 2 Duo 2009 polycarbonate MacBook with NVIDIA GeForce 9400M graphics, then you'll know it honestly wasn't too bad to produce music on. But now I'm going to attempt to edit this 1080p 60 video using Final Cut Pro on the same MacBook, and I'm not looking forward to this as much as producing music. The first thing I noticed is that even trying to play back and scrub 1080p 60 video was not possible on this unit, so I went ahead and created Proxy Media for all of my clips here, and it does appear that if I drag them into the timeline, they will play back at full speed, which will at least make video editing possible, but I'm very curious to see what I'm actually going to be able to do in terms of making the video look professional or good at all using this laptop. I used to use Final Cut Pro probably like 8 or 9 years ago, but I've since moved to DaVinci Resolve. That's my full-time editing software. I'm moderately proficient in it, but Final Cut Pro is like a foreign language to me at this point because I forgot everything I learned in it, so this is going to suck in two ways. I'm going to have to use a really old, terrible laptop, and I'm going to have to relearn the software that I used to use to edit videos. Hopefully, we can make this work. What should we begin with? We have our intro shots here. I guess the intro shots would probably make sense. Hey, before I do anything else, how do I vertically zoom? There's gotta be a way to zoom in and out. Is it like plus and minus? Okay, there is a way. Alright, command plus minus. Thank God I figured that out. I had to turn everything into Proxy Media, as I said before, but I didn't mention that it took 5 hours to convert everything into Proxy Media. That's how slow this hardware is. How do I vertically zoom? Alt plus? No. We're already hitting 76C. Gotta wait for the waveforms to calculate. Okay.
You can see here I have a Logic Pro session up.
I mean, my audio's clipping. I somehow fucked that up. That means that's barely usable. Basically, begin my edit, and then I have to go collect all the additional content that I want to put in here. Shots from the internet, different photos, images, markers. Marker, add marker. M. Some B-roll. CPU here. Why does it split the audio like that? Why doesn't it put the audio below?
2 cores and 2 threads. So the fact that you're even able...
Okay, that's fine. That's pretty much all I need. Can I do a bit of like a smooth transition in here? I like that those aren't linked. That just makes my life harder. That's good. Detach audio and delete the audio. I don't need that. Let's go into our transitions. And yeah, sure. Just a cross dissolve at the beginning.
This thing has a Core 2 Duo processor.
It's already struggling just to render that.
This thing has a Core 2 Duo processor running at 2.2...
Oh my god, this is gonna be brutal. Stabilization. Let's see how it handles stabilizing it. Check out the speed of stabilization. If I go to activity monitor, almost completely maxing out the processor. Surprisingly, we're only using 4.2 gigs of memory. I guess I'm gonna have to edit everything first and then go back and stabilize footage after.
Duo processor running at 2.26 gigahertz, and it has a whopping...
That doesn't look like it stabilized it at all.
Understanding is the most up-to-date version of macOS.
I have B-roll of the operating system. That's gonna be the trackpad. That'll be the intro there.
macOS High Sierra 10.
Good. Let's get a little cross-dissolve action. How do I add text? It would be under here, right?
Nah.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there we go. Man, it's been a while. Text right here. 360 basic text, custom text, fade text. Sure, let's use fade text. I'm sure that'll text the computer more than just a regular text box.
You serious?
Okay, never mind. We're not doing that. Basic text. There we go. Cool. I can't believe I'm actually editing this to any degree right now. Like, I can't believe the computer can actually handle any of this.
Some of the newer versions of macOS. The system also has a 4-finger multi-touch...
Yay, I can use my trackpad footage.
touch glass trackpad, which I'll say, even by today's standards, is really...
Okay, that's the end of my trackpad footage. Can you not move the clip once you add transitions? Oh, you can, okay.
Aluminum unibody models. This system also has a 4-finger...
Maybe I can slow that clip down, because it is a bit short. There is a speed change here. Let's do 50% speed.
2 gigabytes of 1066 megahertz DDR3 SD RAM.
Yeah, that's fine. Now I'm kind of getting into the groove, I guess. Slow that down.
A lot easier. Booting this thing up is super quick, and it works surprisingly well. That's going to be another video. You've probably had to endure enough footage of me suffering my way through Final Cut Pro, so I'm going to go over some things I learned from this experience in case you're insane enough to attempt something like this. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but it could be a fun project if you have an old laptop and you want to see what editing a video on it is like. Here's some bullet points I jotted down about this experience. Proxy Media good, original media bad, audio waveform sad. Basically, you're going to have to convert everything to Proxy Media, but when you do that, it will play back surprisingly well. You'll be able to add transitions without slowing down the computer too much. It straight up would not play back original media at 1080p 60. Just convert everything to Proxy Media. It'll make your life easier. Audio waveform sad. For some reason, it could just be my version of Final Cut Pro or this computer. It had a really hard time rendering my audio waveforms. Even if I gave it a bunch of time, if I would zoom in and out, sometimes it would like not display all of the audio waveforms, which did make things a bit tricky considering I use my audio waveform as a cue as to where to cut. Some other notes: slow as fuck rendering. There's not much you can do about that. It's just hardware limitations. Hot, hot, hot. This Core 2 Duo with dedicated graphics runs really hot. So get a fan control app and just blast your fans when you're doing really intensive stuff. It was pretty weird returning to Final Cut after all these years, but honestly, it's a pretty good software. I did enjoy working in it. It was really stable on this computer. I just had some issues as my project grew larger where I had to quit the program and reopen it, but then it would work fine. Audio editing in Final Cut is a bit weird. It's not as intuitive as in DaVinci Resolve, but it also probably has a lower learning curve. You can't really do stuff outside of the software while you're editing a video on this computer. I sometimes had to open Firefox or another browser and grab some footage or do something else, and the computer really struggled in that case. And finally, apart from rendering the video, it really wasn't that bad of an experience editing it. But as my project grew, there was some pretty odd behavior with Final Cut Pro where it would lock up occasionally, and audio did start cutting out on playback, but I'm really asking a lot of this old computer, so it performed really well. To install newer versions of macOS, I cannot guarantee what the performance is going to be like, because don't forget, this thing has a Core 2 Duo processor running at 2.26 gigahertz, 26 gigahertz, and it has a whopping 2 cores and 2 threads on this Core 2 Duo 2009 polycarbonate MacBook. Starting off here, we have Plug's Forzando Electric V, which is a very well sampled. The light version has a smaller key range as well as fewer. You like using one of these nowadays, because today we're going to be talking a bit about what it was like producing music on this. I may have been able to improve the audio using this laptop and Logic Pro, but all of the programs I have installed are on my other devices, and I used some pretty heavy plugins to try to restore some of the audio because the recording was really that bad. And I'm going to see if I can just drag and drop these in and line them up exactly how I had them lined up before without screwing up anything. Pretty much close to completion when it comes to this video edit. Nothing super intense here. There's a lot more going on in the first like 6 or 7 minutes, and then most of it is just heavy editing for the audio tracks. Let's take a quick look at this edit here and go over some of the stuff I did and make sure that the audio is lined up. But before we get into the tracks, let's talk a little bit about this particular unit, go through the specs, go through what it's capable of. Okay, one thing I want to point out here that I really like about Final Cut Pro is when you're editing titles. Why in DaVinci Resolve can you not just edit your text like this? Like you can just grab text and move it wherever you want? Why does DaVinci Resolve not have that? That's just such a great feature. It made it so easy to add text over stuff and line things up. It even gives you that like middle of the screen lock like that. I mean, that's just so useful. On this MacBook, I'm running macOS High Sierra 10.13.6. I didn't forget it, it just didn't work with stabilizing some of this footage. And I'm wondering if that's because I'm using Proxy Media, if maybe for some reason it will only stabilize the original. So I attempted to stabilize this. It took quite a while. And that is one of the big downsides of attempting to edit on a device like this, is just it doesn't have the horsepower to quickly do complex tasks like stabilization, motion graphics. I don't even think there's 3D acceleration at all. When I tried to drag in some titles earlier and they had 3D graphics, the system told me like, we straight up don't support these or can't use them or something like that. I'm afraid that when I export it, it's going to be zoomed in that much. I think we're just not seeing like a correctly updated, stabilized image here. I added some video effects to the other demos of the songs. Wondering if I could find something for this video that'll make it look interesting. How about Indie Red? That's not bad. Ooh, Moonlight. Does that actually like create moving rain? Oh, it does. Okay, no, that's pretty cool. I like that effect. I'm going to save this last bit here for a separate video. It's going to be my out point. go back and grab my endpoint. And now we are going to switch this over to original media. We're going to share it, and this is going to take forever to render. Even though it's not super complex, I have a feeling this is going to take like 2 to 3 hours minimum. Today we're going to be talking a bit about what it was like producing music on this Core 2 Duo 2009 polycarbonate MacBook. I've had this in my possession for quite a while now. This was actually destined for the trash. My coworker was basically told to throw this away, but he knew that I was into MacBooks, so he was kind enough to offer it to me, and of course I took advantage of it. You can see here I have a Logic Pro session up. This is one of the 3 tracks that I created that I'm going to be showing off and talking a bit about today. But before we get into the tracks, let's talk a little bit about this particular unit, go through the specs, go through what it's capable of, how it compared to other units at the time, and basically what it would be like using one of these nowadays, because honestly, it's not as bad as you might think. While I'm talking a bit about this MacBook, I'm going to be showing off some B-roll that I shot of it, as well as playing the tracks that I produced as background music. If at any point you're not interested in what I'm talking about, feel free and skip around the video. There's going to be a lot to this. But if you grew up with MacBooks newer than this could be a pretty interesting look back into history in terms of what people were actually trying to work with back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. On this MacBook, I'm running macOS High Sierra 10.13.6, which to my understanding is the most up-to-date version of macOS that this hardware officially supports. Though you can use something like DOS Dude Mojave Patcher, or if you really want to get wild, you can try something like OpenCore Bootloader to install newer versions of macOS, although I cannot guarantee what the performance is going to be like, because don't forget, this thing has a Core 2 Duo processor running at 2.26 GHz, and it has a whopping 2 cores and 2 threads. So the fact that you're even able to produce music on this in the first place is pretty mind-blowing. Here's what every Mac says about this particular MacBook. This obviously is the late 2009 polycarbonate unibody MacBook, modeled after the previously introduced unibody MacBook and MacBook Pro models. This is of course just the MacBook, not the MacBook Pro. Like the aluminum unibody models, this system also has a 4-finger multi-touch glass trackpad, which I'll say, even by today's standards, is really a great trackpad. There are plenty of modern Windows laptops that have worse trackpads than this, so it goes to show just how cutting edge Apple was at the time. This unit also has an integrated battery design that is not intended to be replaced by the end user, although to be honest, I think the battery's just screwed in. It's pretty easy to replace. This model is configured with a 45nm Penryn 2.26 GHz Intel Core 2 Duo processor, the P7550, with 2 independent processor cores on a single silicon chip, a 3MB shared on-chip Level 2 cache, and a 1066 MHz front-side bus, 2 GB of 1066 MHz DDR3 SD RAM, installed in pairs, 2 1GB models. This particular unit has 8 GB of 1067 DDR3 RAM, and let me tell you, if you're going to be using one of these nowadays, definitely upgrade the RAM. This originally came with a 250GB serial ATA 5400 RPM hard drive, although I upgraded mine to a 400MB Kingston SSD, which makes life a lot easier. Booting this thing up is super quick. I also went ahead and installed Windows 7 on a separate partition on this, and it works surprisingly well. That's going to be a separate video where we get into some Windows 7 gaming. I'm really excited to try that out. If you're interested in something like that, please consider subscribing to the channel. It'll help me out a lot and motivate me to make more videos like this. This MacBook also comes with an 8XDL SuperDrive, which I haven't tested on my model. I really hope it works, but they always broke on my 2012 MacBook. The MacBook also features an NVIDIA GeForce 9400M graphics processor with 256MB of SD RAM shared with main memory, and a 13.3-inch widescreen TFT Active Matrix LED backlit glossy display at a resolution of 1280 by 800. Now, by today's standards, and definitely by today's MacBook standards, this display is not great, but it's honestly held up surprisingly well. I purchased a cheap Lenovo IdeaPad probably like 3 or 4 years ago that had a significantly worse panel than this, especially when it comes to contrast. This is a surprisingly good looking and rich display. While I was producing music on this MacBook, I was using a Lexicon Alpha interface, which was just plug and play. Didn't need any additional drivers, and that in my opinion is one of the biggest advantages of MacBooks, is their built-in core audio is fantastic compared to a lot of the Windows options, especially going back to something like 2009 and using old interfaces. Now, if you're curious about the setup I have here to record both the screen and the audio, I'll go over it really quickly. I have mini DisplayPort out of the MacBook, you can see here, going into this U9 HDMI splitter. That is being split into 2 HDMI feeds. One is going to this Elgato HD60S Plus capture card, going into OBS on this computer over here, and then the other feed out of that splitter is going into the display here so I can look at it. For audio, I'm using headphone out of the MacBook into line in on this Asus A320MK motherboard, and then that's being captured in OBS as well, which was the best I could do, and honestly, it's going to work perfectly well for showing off these tracks.